BuyTwoWayRadios.com. Check, check. BuyTwoWayRadios.com.
It's the Two-Way Radio Show.
And welcome to the Two-Way Radio Show. I'm Rick Savoya.
And I'm Danny Feemster.
And this is the podcast about two-way radios for business and consumer communications. Today we'll talk about a new version of a popular Bluetooth-enabled smartphone-controlled mobile amateur radio from VGC. We'll also tell you about an adapter that allows you to connect handheld audio accessories to an Ocean mobile radio, and take some of your comments and questions from our blog and our forum at twowayradioforum.com. Our show is sponsored by BuyTwoWayRadios.com, the source of two-way radios and radio accessories for businesses and consumers since 2002. BuyTwoWayRadios.com, your radio specialists. A few years ago, a company called VGC introduced a mobile radio to the market called the VR-N7500. It had no display, was Bluetooth-enabled, and could be fully programmed, operated, and updated directly from a smartphone. It became quite popular, and now has a large following of dedicated users. Recently, VGC released a new model with more features, more options, and more versatility. We're talking about the VGC VR-N7600.
The VR-N7600, we got in initially probably around a month ago, and I thought it was just a minor incremental improvement over the N7500, but we sold out of these things like almost instantly. I think maybe a week or so after we first got them in, they were gone. And,
yeah, it was quick.
It seems like people have been anticipating this, and it was something that spread like wildfire once they actually showed up. People were waiting on them, and the feedback on them has been great. So by the time this episode airs, we should have another shipment here. So you should be able to order one when you're listening to this, if it's within a reasonable amount of time at a launch date. But this turns out, looking more closely at it, this seems to be, there's some nice new features in the VR-N7600. And I think in this episode today, let's focus on the differences between the 7600 and the 7500. We've talked about the VR-N7500 before. That was a really groundbreaking radio. It's probably the first, at least the first I know of, mobile radio to connect to a smartphone and allow smartphone control. So basically with your phone, you can change the channel, edit the channel, change menu and menu settings and other radio features and turn things on and off. Also, it had Bluetooth built in, and the way it handled Bluetooth was very nice. And there's a nice set of Bluetooth accessories that worked with the radio. We're not going to go into some of the basic things. We have videos on that. We have previous episodes on that. If you want to see the app and how the app works, it's the same app with the 7600 as the 7500. And we've done videos on that in the past. So in this podcast, let's just concentrate on what's new with the 7600.
Okay. Well, before we do that, for those who are not familiar with the company, let's talk a little bit about VGC itself. Who is VGC? Now VGC has been around internationally for a while. It's an acronym for Vero Global Communication, or also known as Vero Telecom Solutions. Now, we became a VGC dealer over 5 years ago, and we've been rather impressed with some of their products. The VR-N7500 caught our attention as soon as it came out, and we decided to partner with VGC to carry it. And I think overall it was a good move.
Yeah, I believe the VR-N7500 was the first VGC product that we carried. And it's been several years now since that came out. Maybe 4 years, I'm thinking.
Just close to 5, I think.
Okay. See, I was close.
Yeah.
But here we are with the VR-N7600, and maybe we should go through some of the differences. What do you think?
Yeah, let's go right into it.
Well, the biggest thing for me is the 7600 added built-in GPS support. So previously with the 7500, when the radio needed your location for things like features like APRS, it would have to connect to your phone and pull the location from the phone. So if you weren't connected to your smartphone, then all of the GPS features were off, essentially. Now, the GPS functionality is built into the radio, and it uses there's a compass. It uses some speed and like gyroscope type functionality. All this is built right into the radio with. And you no longer need smartphone connectivity in order to use GPS features. So that's a big positive right out of the gate. Also, this additional GPS functionality enables the APRS function. APRS is a ham system for transmitting location, and it can be complex, but also very, very cool. You can track your movements, and you can see where other people that are transmitting to you are on a map. The features that are supported from APRS are more complex with the 7600. In addition to the new GPS functionality, the 7600 also expands the receive frequency range of the radio. The 7500 was limited to the typical UHF and VHF range, 136 to 174, and I think 400 to 470. But it also had an FM radio built in. But now with the 7600, you can receive on airband, even in AM, just what most or what airband transmissions are on. So legit airband AM is supported. Also, it will receive into the 220 band, so 1.5 meter. It will receive 300 to 400, or basically 300 to 520. So you get 300 to 420, which wasn't in the 7500. If there's anything in there you want to receive on, I don't know that there's a lot going on 300 to 420, but it is supported. I can't think of what's in 300 to 420 right off the top of my head, but it's added.
Yeah. We were talking before the show about the groups and the channels, and this has a little, I guess, an expansion somewhat on that, right?
Yeah, it does. The 7500 had channel groups, but the channel groups were limited to 16 channels per group. So that's somewhat limiting. There are some, I guess, for example, say you want to, this is a ham radio, not a GMRS radio, but let's say you want to create a channel bank with your GMRS channels in it. Well, there's 22 GMRS channels, 30 if you include the repeater channels. So that would require multiple channel banks, which is kind of annoying. Now, with the 7600, a channel bank is 32 channels. So if you wanted to put receive only GMRS in its own channel bank, there's enough slots to do that. And there's a lot of other channels that would be similar to this.
Well, when we're talking about the Bluetooth functionality and the capability, there is something that comes to mind that I'd like to mention for just a moment. We were talking 2 or 3 episodes back about the new Paul Miller's law, that where you have to have hands-free. And this is a radio that it can connect to various Bluetooth devices and allows you to have hands-free capability, so you're within that law if you live in Pennsylvania. I think that's a very important thing to mention at this point. I think it's a nice selling point to make about this radio.
Yeah, Bluetooth is always nice, and now with Pennsylvania law, ham radio is exempted, so it wouldn't necessarily matter if you were wired or
That's
wireless.
true.
But with VGC, there are several Bluetooth mic options, I believe, even different colors. So this radio, the 7600, does include a wired mic, but it's a nice wired mic with a full color screen, like we mentioned earlier. And that's better than the 7500, at least the initial launch 7500. There's some newer configurations of the 7500 that do include a wireless mic with the screen. But those wireless mics with the screen also work with the 7600. So those wireless mics work using the Bluetooth functionality.
One other item here that's on the list, the crossband repeat capability on it, that gets overlooked sometimes on some of these radios, but that feature seems to be becoming more popular these days on some of these dual band radios. Even if someone buys like a dual band handheld or something like that has that capability and they don't even really need it, sometimes they'll say, hey, it's crossband repeat, I'll get this. And so for those who use it, some people do use it, and this is one radio that has that capability.
Yeah, I don't think that's anything new, though. I think the 7500 had crossband repeat as well, and that is a cool feature, but it's probably not used by most people, I would say.
So it has all the usual
very handy
stuff
if you
in
need
it.
it.
Yeah, it is. It has all the usual features that you would expect from a radio, either a handheld or a mobile base. But it has a couple of other items. We're talking about a radio that's firmware upgradable through the app. But there is something worth mentioning about the firmware upgradability. As I understand it, and this is what I've heard, is that they have plans to kind of keep this, I don't want to say dynamically updated, but updated very frequently. So, and for some users that might be something they want.
Well, I haven't heard anything specifically about the 7600, but I can say with the 7500 that the version that we had 5 years ago is vastly different from the version that we're shipping now.
That's true.
And you can still buy a 7500. They're not going away, and they're about $100 less than the 7600. But they have continually improved that radio. And they've improved the app features. They've added tons to that app since it was initially launched, and they've upgraded radio firmware to match the new features in the app. So it is a pretty cool progression, and they're definitely staying on top of keeping things updated. So this radio is kind of going to evolve with you as you the version that you're going to get right now is probably going to be different than the version a few years from now, and you'll probably be happy with what they do if the 7500 is any indication, because you're exactly right. The firmware updates were amazing.
Yeah. Also,
another thing they've added, this is also, I think this is the last thing on my list that's new. 7600 adds AI noise reduction.
Oh, that's nice.
They're doing AI processing on radio to do noise reduction. Now, I don't know what this means. Do they have some kind of chip on this radio that makes that's a fast processor that can do some AI type things? Will we see more AI functionality in the future?
We could. And I wouldn't. I know I'm breaking away from the topic here just a little bit, but I'm just wondering in the future we might start seeing more radios, mobile radios and handheld radios with the features like that.
Well, I've thought about this in the past, but like what you always hear is that in order to do a lot of the AI stuff, a lot of computation is required. There's a higher level of compute than you would normally find on like a radio.
Right.
But maybe that explains, like, this is a more expensive radio by about $100 than the 7500. So maybe part of that price difference is faster processors. And I am 100% speculating here. Please don't buy this thinking that this is going to be some crazy AI radio in the future. I'm not promising that. I don't know. I don't know of any new AI functionality that's coming. I'm purely speculating that it might be possible.
We mentioned the GPS capability. We mentioned the onboard gyroscope and the compass.
I did mention the onboard compass and gyroscope. I believe that probably what happened is there's a GPS chip in the radio, and the GPS chip supports all of this, but I believe they do make it available through the app. You can see a compass. I believe I saw some of the new APRS functionality takes advantage of the speed sensitivity. Like maybe you can, maybe it transmits the speed that you're moving over APRS. I haven't tried that personally again, so don't hold me to it. But I think I saw that on their product page.
And it has smart beaconing position reporting.
Yep,
So I guess
that's what I saw. Yeah.
We didn't mention the Morse code decoder.
I believe that's an app function available on the 7500 as well. Yeah.
There's a lot in this radio, especially when it's combined with the app. I think it makes it very, very powerful.
The app is kind of insane. The app, even for the 7500, even years ago, would allow you to connect over a network. Like you can, through your radio, connect to someone listening on the internet and talk to someone who's sitting at a computer. I mean, it's pretty cool. You can add network servers through the app and link up.
So this radio comes just like the other one. It comes with the radio, the wired hand speaker mic, the mounting bracket, hand microphone, magnet mount, power code, spare fuse, screw set, owner's manual, and it has a 1-year warranty from VGC too. So it comes ready to go, pretty much. Now, we have a video of the VR-N7600 from a while back where we showed it mounted under the seat. And you should be able to do that with this radio as well.
The idea is if you get one of the wireless mics, and we sell a BHM79, which is like a plain Bluetooth speaker microphone with no display. It will connect to this radio, so you can put the radio out of sight and then use just that mic to communicate with the radio. You can also use your cell phone for that. You can use the app and use that as a hand mic if you want, but using something like the BHM79 is probably a little more convenient.
Yeah. To summarize on this, what about the price?
The price is $299.99 for the VGC VR-N7600. That is $120 more than the VR-N7500, which sells for $179.95.
That is also contingent on what happens here down the road with tariffs and things like that. I don't want to get into a tariff discussion now, but the price could change. So if you want one of these, it's probably best to get one right now while we have them.
Yeah, as we're recording, we're back in China tariff craziness again. So we'll see where we are as we head into the holidays here.
No, we pretty much covered the VR-N7600 here, right? Any other thoughts on that?
No, I think we got it.
Okay. Well, there's one more product that I think we really should talk about. We brought it up in the last episode of the Two-Way Radio Show. We mentioned that it was coming, but since then we've had it in stock, and it's a really cool product. This is the K1 audio adapter for the Ocean radios, and for the Ocean mobile radios, I should say, and what it does is you plug this into your Ocean mobile radio, and it allows you to connect a standard Kenwood, or what's known as a K1 style 2-pin audio connector through this device directly to your mobile. So it allows you to be able to use things like, desktop microphones equipped with a 2-pin audio connector, headsets. One thing that I think is probably a good, a good accessory to use with this is maybe one of those headsets with the boom mics. You can just sit back and pretty much be hands free with it, and talk on your mobile radio. I think that's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, it is kind of neat because with especially with a mobile, like most mobile radios, there's a proprietary mic connector. So the Ocean KG1000s, the UV980s, the UV920, those radios are pretty popular radios, but there's a limited amount of accessory, like audio accessories and mic replacement mics and things like that for them. So we've had requests over the years for things like desktop microphones and all that. This audio adapter basically opens up the radio to work with anything that's out there now. Now you can't use your mic that's included with the radios if you're using the adapter. So you lose some radio control, you lose your keypad and all that. But that might be a trade-off that's worth making depending on your scenario. There's also a gain control on the audio adapter, which is kind of neat.
That's inside, yeah. And I have heard since then we've sold through pretty much half of our inventory on these right now, but I have heard some good things from those who really are excited about this product. But I have heard some questions, some queries from folks saying, "Hey, can you make one of these for a TYT radio, or will this work with such and such a mobile radio and that sort of thing?" This really is designed specifically for the Ocean radios right now. But who knows? Who knows what can happen in the future? If it really takes off, then might see.
I have another. I have another new product announcement, Rick, that we should probably at least briefly mention while we're sitting here. The Randy 3 from President is now in stock.
Oh, so great.
If you were waiting on the new version of the Randy, I know some people have asked about it. It is now available. You don't have to be stuck with the old Randy 2 anymore. The Randy 3 is here.
All right. Well, that's good news. We can use some good news, huh? More good news.
Better than bad news.
Yeah, definitely. Always better than bad news. Well, we have some comments and questions from our blog and our forum at twowayradioforum.com. And our first one comes from Don Banistan. And he's responding to the antennas and HOAs, and we covered this extensively in the previous episode 206. And Dom says, about daggone time Congress reins these raven lunatics and neighborhood Karens in. And that's from Dom. Well,
I'm sure a lot of people will agree with that.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that either. This one comes from JMD. And JMD says, don't move into a house in a subdivision that somebody else is going to tell you what you can or can't do. I'm sure you signed papers agreeing to that control. Find a house somewhere else and quit crying. And that's from JMD. We talked about that. We talked about that.
I sympathize somewhat with what he's saying there. I mean, there are good things and bad things with HOAs.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, though, you don't always have those choices. Some people don't have those choices these days. And as I mentioned in the podcast, sometimes you're kind of stuck. And there are certain cases where the HOAs are pretty much everywhere. And if you kind of have to have an HOA in your neighborhood. If you want to live in any kind of decent neighborhood. So it's very, very difficult to do. I'm going to go up to this one here because it's a very similar. Well, let me read this other one first. This one comes from Todd. Todd says HOA should not have any effect on a clean radio antenna installation on any person's house. HOA should worry about what is around the ground around the house. Many places with HOAs let lands around houses go, trash vehicles, etc. Leave ham users out of it. And that's from Todd. In other words, I think what he's saying is, they should quit trying to mess with the hams and start doing what they were supposed to do originally, these HOAs, which is just kind of help keep things nice and neat. Well, this one's from Gary. Gary says, moving into a neighborhood governed by an HOA and then demanding that you be allowed to put up an antenna that violates those rules is ridiculous. Your desire to violate the rules after agreeing to follow them is a great way to upset and draw the ire of your neighbors who do follow the rules. Trying to get a legal exemption to break the rules will only serve to further tick off your neighbors. Many bought their properties because they were told that big antennas and other undesirable structures would not be allowed in the neighborhood. Don't become the neighborhood nuisance. If you can't build a big tower for your radios, your station will most likely be useless anyway, in a time of emergency when amateur radio licenses will be needed. If your station will only talk down the street if you're not using a repeater, your station isn't necessary. It's only a hobby horse. Amateur radios aren't toys to be used like CB radios. They have a designated purpose and aren't for daily chit-chat about the weather, your doctor's appointment, or your trip to the grocery store. Serious amateur licensees live where they can build a big tower without needing government exemptions. Don't become the neighborhood pariah. And that is from Gary.
I sympathize with
you sympathize with everybody.
With what Gary, I sympathize. I mean, he's right on some level. Like, what if someone moved into that neighborhood thinking, oh, well, I love that all these rules are going on in this neighborhood. That's why I'm moving in. And now someone's coming in trying to get Congress to pass a law with. I get that. Now, I think Gary is also on his high horse a little bit, trying to decide what amateurs can and can't talk about on radio.
On the air, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's not up to Gary what amateurs can talk about on radio.
Well, I take issue with a couple of things he said. First of all, it kind of sounds like Gary might be one of these people running an HOA that I'm not making accusations. I'm just saying that's kind of what it sounds like. He's one of these people who walks around in the HOAs putting his
he's an little, HOA president.
Yardstick in people's yards and measuring the grass.
He's on the board somewhere. Yeah.
Here, when he says, I almost broke up laughing when he said that part where he said that if your station will only talk down the street if you're not using a repeater, your station isn't necessary. It's only a hobby horse. Isn't that what ham radio is? A hobby? I mean, isn't that the whole point of ham radio?
What's wrong with that's the point for a lot of people. It's a hobby.
It's a hobby. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be, right? Amateur radios aren't toys to be used like CB radios. Well, that's part of what the hobby's all about. You tinker around with that stuff. You experiment.
It's not
you build
up to
things.
Gary how people use their radios. It's not up to Gary how people use their radios.
CB radios. Really, I wouldn't say they're toys. I mean, there's a lot to the amateur radio hobby. There's a lot to the devices that are used in the hobby. So definitely wouldn't call them toys, but. I kind of take exception with that too. And they aren't for daily chit chat and the weather, your doctor's appointment, or your trip to the grocery store. Well, not that there's anything wrong with any of that. I mean, hams get on and what do they call it? A rag chew? They call it a rag chew. That's what it is. Just talking with each other and just having a good old time. Granted, it gets kind of old to get up on one of the nets and just hear about everybody's trip to the doctor and how the bursitis is acting up again or whatever it is.
But that's a lot.
I got up this morning, I had some eggs, went back to bed, But that's part of the experience, you know?
I agree.
Oh, you were going to say something else?
No, I completely agree with you. The judginess on how people use radios, I think Gary is wrong about that. I sympathize with Gary with the HOA. Like, let's say, what if you're not in an HOA? Your neighbor had a 1,000-watt CB amplifier and a huge antenna, and every time he keyed up, your TV went out, and you decided, I'm going to move to a neighborhood that has an HOA, so I don't have to deal with this anymore. And then, guess what? There's a new law in town saying that that's legal.
Put up his yeah. Well, look, when he said serious amateur licensees live when they can build a big tower, this doesn't mean everybody's going to, if this law passes, which it might not if we don't get enough support for it. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to run out and build a big tower next to their house or on their roof or somewhere and start transmitting all over the place. That's not what it means. I mean, obviously, there are going to be some reasonable limits in HOAs for putting up. I don't want anybody next door to me building a 500-foot tower. Then again, that's why I don't want to live in underneath a cell phone tower. But then again, I mean, if I want to put up an antenna, maybe a 15, 20-foot antenna, that's on the side of the house, what's wrong with that?
Well, someone has to draw the line between the 500-foot tower and the small, reasonable antenna. And isn't an HOA the best place to draw that line?
Well, I think that's where the House and the Senate bills address some of that, because they're saying, well, you can go to your HOA and you get approval for it. They can't deny you if it's reasonable for the neighborhood. If it's, in other words, what this is doing is it's preventing HOAs from saying you can't put anything up. You can't put up a 5-foot aerial above your house or something. Some of them just don't allow any of that. So this is really more to put some common sense into this, when it comes to the HOA rules.
I don't know if Lindsey Graham is the guy that needs to be deciding what common sense is for antenna heights in neighborhoods. I'm not sure.
Well, in any case, we have a couple more. We have one more comment here. Two more actually. There's one from Jay Wilkers, and he says the bill will die if it is not signed into law by the outgoing Congress in early 2026. That's pretty much been established. That's it really needs to be passed. Sometime this year, if possible.
It's extremely unlikely this is going to be passed, right? Is it very? Wouldn't you say? I mean, the
miracles can happen.
Someone introduces it every time, like every Congress, but it kind of never goes anywhere. The ARRL needs to get on it.
Yeah, we all do. And our last one comes from Sean, our good friend Sean in the forums. And Sean says, I listened to episode 206 this morning. I think I commented on your last podcast about this subject last year. I'll not bore you with that and just say I have no faith in our federal government, ARRL, nor HOAs. I do enjoy your podcast, though. Thanks for expending the time and effort for us. And that's from Sean. And Sean, really, really appreciate it as always. Your input is always...
It's a nice comment.
It's always appreciated, yeah. Well, I guess that does it for our comments and questions in this episode. Send in your comments and questions for Danny or myself to show@bytwowayradios.com. If you want to know more about today's topic or about two-way radios in general, check out our forum discussions at twowayradioforum.com. Of course, you can subscribe to the Two-Way Radio Show directly from our website at twowayradioshow.com or hear it pretty much anywhere you can hear a podcast. And you can subscribe by email if you click subscribe by email on the Two-Way Radio Show podcast page at twowayradioshow.com and enter your email address, you'll get the latest episode of the Two-Way Radio Show as soon as it's released. And it's just for the podcast. Nobody's going to badger you with sales emails or anything like that from that. It's just to get the podcast, and you'll get it right away. Really. All right. Well, I guess that does it for our show in this episode. Before we go, any final comments, Danny?
I think we got it.
All right. Well, today's show is sponsored by BuyTwoWayRadios.com. Whether you're searching for two-way radios for general consumer or business use, Buy Two-Way Radios can help you find the best solution for your needs. Give us a call at 1-800-584-1445 or enter our live chat at BuyTwoWayRadios.com. Well, everyone, as always, thanks for listening. And until next time, for the Two-Way Radio Show, I'm Rick Savoya.
And I'm Danny Feemster.
And we're out.